25 household secrets that struggling families mastered, and they genuinely delivered results. Can you recall a time when budgets were tight and waste was unthinkable? When necessity sparked innovation, families uncovered brilliant solutions that today's modern products have pushed from our memory. We're diving into 25 household strategies that financially challenged families depended on across generations, techniques that often outperformed the products we purchase nowadays. Let's begin with vinegar as a multi-purpose cleaner. Before store aisles overflowed with specialty cleaning solutions, vinegar served as the ultimate household workhorse. A gallon container ran just pennies during the 1950s, roughly 50 cents in current dollars. Yet it tackled tasks from dirty glass to persistent calcium buildup. Households created an all-purpose solution by combining 1 part vinegar with 3 parts water in recycled spray containers, producing a cleaner that eliminated kitchen grease, banished bathroom residue, and brought shine to glass surfaces. The pungent odor faded rapidly, leaving behind surfaces that were genuinely sanitized, not just clean. Numerous homes maintained different vinegar mixtures, concentrated versions for challenging jobs like oven cleaning, diluted formulas for everyday counter maintenance. The genius of this method extended beyond mere cost efficiency, though 1 vinegar bottle could substitute for countless pricey cleaners. It posed zero risk to kids or animals, contrasting sharply with the aggressive chemicals that eventually filled the marketplace. Even nowadays, cleaning professionals frequently rediscover this straightforward solution since it performs identically to products costing 20 times the price, transforming worn garments into cleaning cloths. Prior to paper towels becoming a household norm during the 1960s, exhausted clothing found new purpose as cleaning materials. Every home maintained a cloth collection, typically stored beneath the sink or down in the cellar, packed with sectioned shirts, damaged linens, and worn bath towels. The transformation followed an almost ceremonial pattern. When father's work shirt finally failed at the elbows, mother would settle at the table with scissors, cutting it into uniform squares. Cotton material was treasured for dusting tasks, flannel excelled at silverware polishing, and terry cloth handled intensive scrubbing. These cloths served beyond mere cleaning purposes. Gentle cotton sections doubled as infant wipes. Wool remnants became hot pads. Prime pieces were reserved for shoe care or furniture treatment. A single deteriorated bedsheet could produce 20 or more cleaning cloths lasting several years. Households laundered and recycled these materials countless times, air drying them in sunlight for natural bleaching. This approach conserved approximately $50 annually in 1955 currency, equivalent to roughly $500 today. The surprising truth is, these fabric cloths actually cleaned superior to paper towels, soaking up more moisture and scrubbing more thoroughly without disintegrating. Creating broth from potato skins. Throughout the Depression and continuing into the 1960s, potato skin broth sustained poor families nationwide. What appears wasteful by today's standards, consuming what we discard, was resourceful survival cuisine. Families accumulated potato peels from weekly cooking, keeping them in sealed containers in cold storage. By Sunday, those peels received thorough cleaning and simmered with onion remnants, carrot greens, and any available vegetable scraps. The produced stock proved remarkably nourishing, since most potato nutrients concentrate beneath the outer layer. Including a ham bone or bacon, remnants elevated it to substantial soup, feeding 6 people. Certain households experimented by incorporating barley or rice for hardiness, or creating thickness with flour mixtures. This practice transcended mere financial hardship. It embodied food reverence. Depression-era grandmothers declared that discarding potato peels equaled throwing away currency. Fascinatingly, contemporary nutritional experts have validated what these families instinctively understood. Potato exteriors contain more dietary fiber, vitamins, and minerals than the interior flesh. Employing baking soda for odor elimination, a baking soda package ran merely 5 cents during 1950 and addressed numerous household challenges. Families found this modest powder neutralized smells superior to any scented merchandise. They scattered it inside footwear overnight, particularly father's work boots, emptying it each morning. A small container positioned in the icebox absorbed cooking smells, replaced monthly for minimal cost. Floor coverings received applications too, distributed before retiring and swept away at dawn, capturing animal odors and stale dampness. Mothers incorporated a spoonful into diaper containers, substantially reducing ammonia stench. Even smoking trays got a base layer of baking soda to reduce tobacco smell. The chemistry was straightforward yet powerful. Baking soda eliminated both acidic and alkaline smell compounds instead of merely concealing them. Families frequently purchased bulk quantities from agricultural suppliers, where 10 pounds ran under $1. This singular product substituted for what would currently be numerous specialized deodorizing products costing hundreds yearly. The technique proved so successful that numerous upscale lodgings still employ baking soda as their principal carpet deodorizer. Preserving and reusing aluminum foil. Aluminum foil received treatment like precious metal in households where finances mattered. Following use, covering dishes or wrapping remainders, families meticulously smoothed the utilized foil, gently cleaned it with soapy water, and suspended it for drying. Certain households designated special storage just for organized used foil sheets arranged by dimensions and quality. The finest sheets, minimally creased, were saved for entertaining guests. More deteriorated sections became pot scrubbers or were compacted into spheres for cleaning cast iron cookware. During the Second World War, this wasn't simply frugality, but patriotic duty since aluminum supported aircraft manufacturing. Well into the 1970s, numerous families maintained this custom. An aluminum foil roll during 1960 cost roughly 39 cents, equivalent to nearly $4 currently. By reusing each sheet multiple times, a household could extend one roll 6 months. Children mastered unwrapping lunch sandwiches cautiously, folding the foil and pocketing it for home return. This painstaking attention appears excessive now, yet it represented fundamental resource respect defining that period, producing homemade shampoos and cleansing bars. Before the beauty industry boomed during the 1960s, numerous families created their own personal care products from fundamental ingredients. Soap production was an annual undertaking, typically conducted outdoors in massive pots. Families preserved bacon drippings and beef fat throughout the year, storing it in coffee containers. When soap-making season arrived, usually during autumn, they'd blend the fat with lye, produced from wood ash and water. The procedure was hazardous. Lye could inflict serious burns, but the finished soap sustained a family 12 months. Regarding shampoo, various formulas circulated through communities like cherished secrets. One favored mixture combined 1 egg yolk with a tablespoon of lemon juice and a teaspoon of olive oil. Another utilized watered-down Castile soap with a vinegar final rinse. Some families learned that baking soda mixed with water cleaned hair perfectly, accompanied by an apple cider vinegar rinse for luster. These homemade products ran pennies compared to purchased alternatives. A commercial soap bar during 1950 cost 10 cents. Families could produce 20 bars for identical expense. More significantly, these products were frequently milder on skin and hair than commercial alternatives, which contained aggressive detergents, transforming stale bread into crispy cubes. No bread ever faced disposal in a resourceful household. When loaves began hardening, inventive cooks converted them into numerous different components. Croutons were merely the starting point. Yesterday's bread was cubed, coated with preserved bacon fat or butter combined with garlic powder and baked in the oven. These homemade croutons delivered more taste than any boxed version and required no additional expense. But bread's second existence extended well beyond croutons. Hardened slices became French toast, bread pudding, or dressing. Completely dried, they were processed into breadcrumbs for meatloaf and casserole coverings. Italian families prepared panzanella, soaking tough bread in tomato liquid and olive oil. Jewish households crafted bread kugel. Even moldy portions were trimmed away and the usable parts rescued. During the Depression, bread coffee was created by toasting bread until nearly charred, then steeping it in boiling water. A single loaf could extend into components for 5 or 6 separate dishes. This resourcefulness meant that while modern Americans discard roughly 40% of their bread purchases, previous generations discarded essentially none. Salvaging old containers for organization. Glass containers were treasured in economical households. Every pickle container, jelly jar, and mayonnaise jar was thoroughly cleaned and preserved. The workshop or cellar had rows of baby food jars fastened by their caps beneath shelving holding fasteners, washers, and tiny hardware, visible instantly. In the cooking area, bigger jars held flour, sugar, rice, and beans, maintaining freshness and preventing pest contamination. Canning jars weren't exclusively for preserving food. They became beverage containers, flour holders, and meal transport vessels. The particularly attractive jars, like those from gourmet mustards or preserves, were kept for presenting homemade presents. Families would pack them with home-preserved goods, cookies, or soup blends as offerings. Before Tupperware gatherings dominated suburban life during the 1960s, glass containers were the principal food preservation answer. They were complementary, endured indefinitely if unbroken, and didn't retain smells or discoloration like plastic eventually would. Some families collected hundreds of jars, arranging them by dimensions and configuration. The habit was so embedded that many Depression-era adults could never discard a jar, even decades afterward, when they could manage proper storage containers. Crafting homemade candles. Every fragment of candle wax was collected in thrifty households, accumulated in old coffee containers until sufficient quantity existed to craft new candles. The procedure occurred on the stovetop, melting collected wax remnants in a double boiler. Families fashioned wicks from cotton cord, braided and soaked in salt solution to promote even burning. Forms originated from anything: milk containers, tin cans, even sand molds for decorative-shaped candles. Throughout the 1950s, when electricity remained costly and unreliable in countryside areas, homemade candles were critical emergency lighting. Even in urban areas, families maintained homemade candles for ambiance and economy. Birthday candle remnants entered the wax container, as did the leftovers of romantic dinner tapers. Children assisted by adding crayon designs on plain candles or incorporating dried flowers into the wax. A pound of paraffin wax ran approximately 15 cents during 1955, but families rarely purchased it, surviving completely on recycled wax. These homemade candles might not have been flawlessly straight or uniformly tinted, but they burned equally as well as purchased ones costing 10 times more. Repurposing toothbrushes for scrubbing. A toothbrush's retirement from oral care signaled the start of its most productive existence. These compact brushes accessed places nothing else could reach: the channel around the sink opening, the rails of sliding windows, the gaps in jewelry. Every household maintained a selection of old toothbrushes in different stages of deterioration, each assigned for specific duties. The freshest retired brushes cleaned footwear, working polish into leather folds. More deteriorated ones scrubbed tile spacing or cleaned typewriter mechanisms. The most worn brushes addressed the grimiest jobs, cleaning the automobile battery connections or scrubbing garden implements. Some families labeled them with nail varnish or marks to differentiate cleaning brushes from active dental ones. Before specialized cleaning implements flooded the marketplace, these repurposed toothbrushes resolved problems that would subsequently require costly specialty brushes. They cleaned sewing equipment, extracted dirt from carved woodwork, and even groomed pets' faces. At 25 cents each during 1950, a toothbrush was an investment that yielded returns for years beyond its original function ended. Creating broth from kitchen scraps. The stock pot was the center of a frugal cooking space, continuously simmering on the rear burner. Every bone from Sunday's roast, every carrot green, celery foliage, and onion exterior entered that pot. Poultry carcasses were treasured, simmered until the bones were tender enough to break apart. This wasn't simply about extending food, it was about capturing nourishment that would otherwise disappear. The resulting broth was precious liquid, abundant in minerals extracted from bones and vitamins from vegetable remnants. Families would filter it weekly, utilizing the liquid for soups, sauces, and preparing rice or legumes. The filtered solids fed chickens or entered compost. Some households sustained a continuous pot, incorporating water and scraps daily, developing a sophisticated flavor that evolved over months. Quality broth could elevate the most inexpensive ingredients into fulfilling meals. Simple rice became risotto, hardened bread became dressing, and stringy meat became tender stew. Before bouillon cubes dominated American kitchens, this homemade broth supplied the flavor foundation for innumerable meals, costing nothing except the gas to simmer it, employing salt to preserve food. Before refrigeration was widespread, salt preservation maintained families fed throughout the year. Meat was stored in salt containers, vegetables were fermented in salt solutions, and fish was salt preserved for storage. The method demanded substantial salt, occasionally equal mass to the food being preserved, but salt was inexpensive and the outcomes lasted months. Families would purchase pork cuts when prices fell, coat them thoroughly in salt, and suspend them to cure into ham. Cabbage was shredded and salted to produce sauerkraut in large crocks. Even eggs were preserved in saltwater mixtures called water glass. The salt extracted moisture, establishing an environment where bacteria couldn't thrive. This wasn't exclusively Depression-era necessity. Many families continued salt preservation into the 1960s because the tastes were superior to frozen alternatives. Salt-preserved country ham possessed a richness that no fresh ham could equal. Home-fermented pickles and kraut contained probiotics that purchased versions lacked. A 50-pound sack of salt ran approximately $1 during 1950 and could preserve hundreds of pounds of provisions, extending meat with additional ingredients. When meat was the priciest component of any dish, inventive cooks mastered making modest amounts stretch far. A pound of ground beef that might feed 4 became nourishment for 8 with proper additions. Breadcrumbs, oatmeal, or pulverized crackers were incorporated along with an egg to hold it together. Shredded vegetables like carrots, potatoes, or zucchini contributed volume and wetness. The blend was seasoned generously to preserve meat taste throughout. This wasn't exclusively for meatloaf. Hamburgers received the treatment too, shaped thin and cooked carefully to maintain cohesion. Some families had precise proportions they trusted. 1 pound meat, 1 cup breadcrumbs, 1 egg, and 1 finely minced onion could produce 8 respectable-sized patties. During especially difficult periods, the proportion might be inverted with more filler than meat. Casseroles were another stretching method where a modest amount of meat flavored a substantial dish of noodles, rice, or potatoes. These methods saved the typical family $10 to $15 monthly in 1950s currency, approximately $150 currently, while still delivering protein-rich meals. Cultivating herbs on windowsills. Fresh herbs were a costly extravagance in grocery outlets, if obtainable at all, so families cultivated their own on bright windowsills. Compact pots or even tin containers with drainage openings held parsley, chives, basil, and thyme. These herbs elevated simple meals into something remarkable. A few basil leaves made basic tomato sauce taste restaurant quality. Fresh parsley enhanced any dish and supplied vitamins during cold months. The starting investment was negligible. Seeds ran pennies, or cuttings were exchanged between neighbors. With appropriate attention, a single parsley plant could furnish garnish for months. Some families became creative, cultivating herbs in old coffee containers, painted and embellished by children. Others constructed small shelf arrangements across kitchen windows, establishing herb gardens that also offered privacy. The custom wasn't simply economical. Fresh herbs were frequently impossible to locate in grocery stores before the 1970s. Possessing them readily meant the distinction between plain and tasty cooking. A window herb garden could conserve $2 weekly on purchased dried herbs, substantial funds when the typical weekly grocery allocation was below $20. Utilizing leftover cooking fat. Every drop of fat was valuable in frugal kitchens. Bacon drippings were precious liquid, carefully transferred while still warm into coffee containers maintained by the stove. Chicken fat was rendered and preserved, beef tallow stored. These fats substituted costly butter and oil in cooking, contributing remarkable taste to everything they contacted. Vegetables roasted in chicken fat, eggs cooked in bacon grease, and biscuits prepared with saved fats possess richness that contemporary low-fat cooking can't duplicate. Beyond cooking, these fats had numerous applications. Combined with flour, they became roux for sauces. Mixed with lye, they became soap. Spread on bread during difficult times, they supplied calories when butter was unattainable. Families even utilized clean fats to waterproof boots and treat leather. The coffee can of bacon grease beside the stove was so universal that it became a cultural emblem of American home cooking. Fashioning homemade ice packs. Commercial ice packs didn't exist for most households until the 1970s, so families improvised with notable creativity. The easiest method was moistening a sponge and freezing it in a plastic bag, producing a flexible ice pack that molded to injuries. Others filled rubber gloves with water and froze them, the fingers supplying ice for compact areas. Some families learned that frozen bags of peas or corn functioned perfectly, remaining flexible while cold. For longer-lasting cold, they combined 1 part rubbing alcohol with 3 parts water in durable bags. This blend stayed gel-like when frozen, ideal for sprains. Cloth bags packed with rice and frozen provided gentler cold therapy. These homemade alternatives frequently functioned superior to commercial ice packs because they could be tailored. Need something compact for a black eye? Freeze a damp washcloth. Something for a broader area? A frozen damp towel functioned perfectly. The cost savings were substantial. Commercial ice packs ran $3 to $5 in 1960s currency, while homemade alternatives cost pennies and could be refrozen endlessly. Converting old curtains into fresh garments. Fabric was costly and valuable, so deteriorated curtains gained new existence as clothing. Those bright kitchen curtains became a daughter's summer frock. Heavy draperies transformed into winter outerwear. The material was frequently superior quality than what families could purchase new. Those 1940s bark-cloth curtains were nearly indestructible. The conversion demanded skill, but conserved tremendous amounts. A child's dress requiring 2 yards of fabric would run $3 to $4 in materials during 1950. Fashioned from old curtains, it cost nothing except effort. Mothers would meticulously dismantle curtains, launder the fabric, and employ newspaper patterns or duplicate existing garments. Feed sack fabric was similarly valued. Flour and animal feed arrived in printed cotton sacks, purposely designed to be repurposed as clothing. Some manufacturers even printed designs that coordinated when multiple sacks were stitched together. This recycling was so prevalent that wearing curtain clothes bore no shame. In reality, a skillfully crafted dress from beautiful curtain fabric might be admired. The custom persisted well into the 1960s, only decreasing when inexpensive imported clothing made new garments affordable for most families. Reusing tea bags, a single tea bag served multiple cups in budget-minded homes. Following the first steeping, the bag was cautiously positioned on a dish to dry. The second brewing demanded longer steeping, but still yielded acceptable tea. Some families kept a small container of used tea bags in the refrigerator, combining 2 or 3 for a pot of lighter tea. But tea bags possessed life beyond the teapot. Dampened used bags comforted tired eyes, minimized puffiness, and assisted healing minor burns. They cleaned and polished leather footwear, eliminated odors from hands after managing fish or onions, and nourished houseplants when inserted in the soil. Black tea bags assisted darkening gray hair between costly dye treatments. The tannins in tea cleaned mirrors and windows without streaking. During the Second World War, when tea was rationed, families might extract 4 or 5 uses from a single bag. A box of 48 tea bags ran approximately 39 cents during 1950. By reusing them, a family could extend that box for months rather than weeks, conserving several dollars yearly when every penny mattered. Patching leaky roofs with tar. Professional roof maintenance was beyond most family budgets, so fathers became amateur roofers with containers of tar. A 5-gallon container of roofing tar ran approximately $2 during 1950 and could seal numerous leaks. The procedure was straightforward yet effective. Clean the location, apply tar generously, and occasionally add fabric or metal reinforcements. On flat roofs, families distributed tar with old brooms, establishing new waterproof layers. For shingle maintenance, tar was heated and poured into fissures. Some blended sawdust with tar for improved adhesion. During dry conditions, entire families would dedicate weekends to tarring roofs, recognizing that one quality application could endure several years. The labor was hot, messy, and hazardous, but a leaking roof meant destroyed possessions and possible structural harm. These DIY repairs conserved hundreds of dollars. Professional roofing ran $300 to $500 in 1950s currency. Numerous homes went decades with nothing except tar patches maintaining them together. The patches might have appeared unattractive with their black marks against weathered shingles, but they kept families dry and preserved funds for more urgent needs. Producing DIY air fresheners with citrus. Before aerosol air fresheners dominated American homes, families established natural alternatives that smelled superior and cost nothing. Orange and lemon rinds were never immediately discarded. Instead, they simmered on the stove with cinnamon sticks and cloves, permeating homes with inviting aromas. During celebrations, this potpourri might simmer throughout the day, establishing atmosphere while humidifying dry winter air. Dried citrus rinds were positioned in closets and drawers, maintaining clothes fresh and discouraging moths. Some families created pomanders by studding oranges with whole cloves, producing decorative air fresheners that endured months. Lemon rinds cleaned and deodorized garbage disposals, cutting boards, and microwaves once they emerged. The oils in citrus rinds also created excellent furniture polish when rubbed directly on wood. This custom conserved money while avoiding artificial scents. A can of commercial air freshener ran 49 cents during 1960 and lasted perhaps a month. Meanwhile, citrus rinds from fruit the family was consuming anyway furnished free natural fragrance year-round. The house smelled like actual fruit and spices instead of synthetic imitations. Utilizing vinegar to soften laundry. Before fabric softener was created during the 1960s, vinegar fulfilled the identical purpose for pennies. A half cup added to the rinse cycle eliminated soap residue, leaving clothes soft and static-free. Unlike commercial softeners, vinegar didn't deposit chemical residue or artificial scent. It was particularly effective on towels, restoring absorbency that soap accumulation destroyed. The acid in vinegar also assisted setting colors in new clothes and removed yellowing from white materials. Families learned that vinegar eliminated odors that washing alone couldn't remove: cigarette smoke, mildew, and perspiration. For heavily soiled work clothes, they'd soak items in vinegar water before washing. Some added essential oils to vinegar for light scenting, though most preferred the clean, fragrance-free outcome. A gallon of vinegar ran approximately 30 cents during 1950 and could soften hundreds of loads. When commercial fabric softeners emerged, costing $1.50 for perhaps 20 loads, thrifty families maintained vinegar usage. The custom was so effective that many people returned to it during the environmental movement of the 1970s, rediscovering what their parents had always recognized: preserving buttons and zippers. The button container was a treasure repository in every frugal household. When clothes deteriorated beyond repair, buttons were meticulously cut off and preserved. Quality zippers were extracted with seam rippers and stored flat between cardboard. These notions were worth preserving. A card of 6 buttons ran 25 cents during 1950, a zipper 35 cents or beyond. Over time, families amassed impressive collections. Canning jars filled with buttons of every dimension and shade became resources for repair and crafting. Children mastered sewing by organizing and stringing buttons. When a shirt lost a button, the jar produced a close enough replacement. Sometimes entire sets of beautiful buttons elevated plain homemade clothes into something remarkable. Zippers were even more precious, carefully matched to new sewing endeavors. A quality metal zipper could outlast multiple garments. Utilizing leftover coffee grounds. Used coffee grounds possessed too much worth to discard. Gardens received the majority of them. The nitrogen-rich grounds created excellent fertilizer for acid-loving plants like tomatoes and roses. Incorporated into soil, they enhanced drainage and attracted beneficial earthworms. But grounds possessed numerous other applications. Combined with soap, they became an abrasive hand cleanser that extracted garage grease and garden dirt. Rubbed on furniture scratches, the brown pigment concealed damage on dark wood. Positioned in refrigerators, they absorbed odors superior to baking soda. Some families dried grounds completely and reused them as fireplace kindling. Others combined them with water to produce brown dye for crafts. During the Depression, extremely poor families even rebrew grounds for second coffee, weak but preferable to nothing. The custom made economic and ecological sense. Americans consumed billions of pounds of coffee yearly, generating mountains of grounds that were pure organic material. A pound of coffee ran approximately 75 cents during 1950. Extracting multiple uses from the grounds extended that investment. Contemporary gardeners pay premium prices for coffee grounds that earlier generations obtained for free. Fashioning homemade draft stoppers. Winter heating expenses drove families to inventive solutions, and draft stoppers were among the most effective. Old socks or pantyhose were packed with sand, rice, or sawdust and positioned against door bottoms where cold air infiltrated. Fancier versions employed sewn fabric tubes filled with dried beans or cedar shavings for pest deterrents. These simple devices could decrease heating bills by 10 to 15%. In homes heated by costly oil or coal, this meant conserving $5 to $10 monthly during winter, substantial funds in the 1950s. Some families crafted elaborate draft stoppers that became decorative features shaped like animals or covered in needlepoint. Others employed rolled newspapers tied with string for temporary solutions. Windows received similar treatment with rope caulk or rags stuffed in gaps. The materials cost nothing. Sand from the yard, sawdust from woodworking endeavors, worn socks beyond mending. Yet they resolved a problem that modern weather stripping would later address for considerably more money. Many families produced new draft stoppers yearly, filling them with that year's worn clothing scraps, establishing both insulation and a purpose for otherwise useless textiles. Mending small holes in garments. The darning egg and needle were essential implements when clothes were costly and expected to endure. Mothers devoted evenings mending small holes before they became significant problems. Socks were darned repeatedly, with some families joking about socks that were more mend than original. Elbows were reinforced with patches. Knees were double layered before they deteriorated through. This wasn't viewed as poverty, but responsibility. A new pair of work pants ran $3 during 1950, a day's wages for many workers. Maintaining them mended for an additional year meant genuine savings. The skill was taught to daughters as essential knowledge. They mastered various stitches for different repairs: blanket stitch for edges, running stitch for seams, darning weave for holes. Patches became decorative features, especially on children's clothes, where cute appliques concealed damage. Some mothers became creative, embroidering flowers around mended areas or using contrasting thread to make repairs features instead of flaws. This mending culture meant clothes endured decades instead of seasons. Wedding dresses were worn by multiple generations. Work clothes survived entire careers, and children's clothes were passed through multiple families, carefully mended at each stage. Thanks for joining us on this journey down memory lane. If you enjoyed exploring these 25 forgotten household hacks, give it a like and share it with a friend. And don't forget to subscribe.